Sometimes it feels like reality itself is running a script you never auditioned for, like you're wandering through scenes that weren't written with your spirit in mind. Behind the obvious surface of daily life, there's a hidden circuit of influence twisting in the background, woven together by those desperate for what you carry at your core. Power brokers and authorities spend lifetimes trying to engineer shortcuts to the source of wisdom that you receive naturally, and the irony is, their schemes only expose how empty they've become. Blessed by His grace? Click Super Thank You and give $20 to spread His light. Your gift plants seeds that grow His kingdom. Be the blessing. If you've ever wondered why familiar faces seem to drain the air from your lungs, or why your most vivid dreams echo with shadows that move just out of reach, you're not alone. That subtle feeling of not quite belonging, of being watched by motives you can't see, isn't a flaw in your design. It's a clue that you're carrying something that others can't manufacture. The pull to shrink or second-guess your intuition was never really yours to begin with. It was a reaction to a world that senses your depth but can't name it. By the time this journey is done, the strange fatigue, the patterns that never made sense, and the magnetic way you draw both trouble and opportunity will all start falling into place. There's a reason you felt out of step, and it's not a mistake. What makes you unusual is about to become your greatest advantage. So get ready for the world to start noticing what it once tried to ignore. Some individuals walk through life with an uncommon clarity, as if their minds are tuned to a frequency others can't perceive. The depth of intuition they experience isn't the result of second-hand knowledge or endless searching, but a native trait, a built-in receptivity that allows revelations to surface in moments of quiet or even in the middle of the night. What feels like sudden inspiration or inexplicable understanding isn't borrowed from the outside world. It's the natural expression of an internal architecture refined for something rare. You're not here by chance. Feel the pull? Tap Join to unlock truth, purpose, and a tribe that gets it. This is more than a membership. It's your calling. In this realm, there are distinct levels of awareness that shape how people move and interact. Not everyone has the same capacity to recognize deeper truths or synthesize what lies beneath appearances. For some, reality is a flat surface. For others, it's a layered landscape constantly sending out signals. To be in this group is not an accident or the result of casual interest. It's an inheritance embedded in the way thoughts arise and choices unfold. Those who carry this gift know that insight is not a commodity passed from hand to hand, but a living current that moves through certain lives with purpose. If these words find resonance, it's because that current is already moving within, marking out a path that few can follow, but many will feel its presence through you. A certain kind of awareness grows quietly, unfolding in the background of everyday existence. While the world around is saturated with noise and distraction, there's a subtle pull beneath the surface, an internal compass pointing somewhere that can't be mapped. It feels as if consciousness itself is stretched, touching corners of experience that defy the story told by clocks and calendars. Thoughts flicker with impressions that seem too rich, too intricate to have been gathered from the present environment. Moments arrive unexpectedly, a phrase, a glance, a shift in the air, that spark an echo of recognition, as if a deeper reality is leaking through. There's an unshakable sense of memory that doesn't belong to childhood or past events. It's the recall of something more foundational, a kind of homesickness for a place that can't be named. You didn't stumble here by accident, you were led. If something in your spirit is stirring, don't ignore it. Tap Join to access exclusive content, prophetic insights, and a community of purpose-driven souls. This isn't just a membership, it's your moment of alignment. Step into who you were born to be. Welcome to the Chosen. The odd dissonance that colors certain days isn't just the result of stress or exhaustion. It's the residue left behind by carrying two frequencies at once. Ordinary life demands attention to the next step, the next task, yet there's a simultaneous awareness of possibilities that seem to hover just out of reach. The internal tug-of-war isn't a flaw, but a byproduct of navigating currents that run in opposite directions. Purpose emerges out of this tension, not as an answer, but as an ongoing question. Why this sense of standing at a crossroads that no one else can see? Why the persistent impression that some form of arrival has already taken place, but hasn't yet rippled through the surface of things? Living with this paradox means adapting to ambiguity, learning to trust the intuition that moves before explanation. Those who resonate with these experiences aren't accidental travelers. Their presence is not a response to chaos, but an act of conscious arrival. Rather than waiting for change to thunder in from the horizon, they operate as quiet architects, planting intentions where others see only confusion. There is a knowing that nothing is wasted, not an encounter, not a loss, not a fleeting sense of déjà vu. Every fragment is a piece of a larger pattern, one that only makes sense from a wider vantage. While some expect drama to mark the world's transformation, the real shift is unfolding in subtler dimensions. There's no single point in time when everything divides. The transition is already woven into the rhythm of daily choices. Reality, as it appears, is less a single strand and more a braid of overlapping timelines, all converging in the present moment. This dual belonging can feel disorienting. Yet within it is a quiet assurance. Existence is not a linear path with a single destination. Instead, it's a multidimensional story, where the promise and the aftermath are lived together, layered in each heartbeat, awaiting those who have the eyes to notice. There's a reason some carry a weariness that sleep can't fix, a reason why moments of sudden alertness feel like someone else just stepped into the room, even when alone. These aren't random glitches in the mind. They're signals. Signals that an unseen mechanism has been drawing from you, quietly, consistently, without consent. It doesn't just happen through people you know. What plays out in your day-to-day relationships is merely the surface layer, an echo of something far more deliberate operating from behind the veil. Those who've long sensed they belong to more than one existence simultaneously are often the ones whose inner clarity becomes a resource, one sought out by those who no longer have access to it themselves. These shadow architects, stripped of genuine insight by their own collapse, have devised quiet alignments with beings who still carry the current of truth. But rather than rising into that light themselves, they attempt to tether their hollow structures to those who still burn with vision. This isn't conspiracy. It's infrastructure, one woven into the energetic fabric of the planet. The power they claim isn't original. It's rerouted, rerun, rerouted again. Like feeding off someone else's rhythm because they've long forgotten how to generate their own. But unlike physical theft, this kind of siphoning leaves no fingerprint, only a strange exhaustion, a fading memory of thoughts that once came easy. The truth is, many have been used as conduits. Not through chains or contracts, but through subtle resonance. There are souls who serve as orientation points, sentient lighthouses in a dim world. And instead of cultivating their own fire, those in power have latched on to these flames, seeking direction without earning it. Not to rebuild anything holy, but to prolong their own fading structures just a little longer. That's the unspoken conflict. While most are watching for visible collapse, the real upheaval is subtle, slow, and already underway. There won't be one loud event to mark its arrival, because it's already happened. That heaviness in the air, that's not anticipation. That's aftermath. At the same time, another kind of timeline is unfolding, a renewal already in motion, one that only a few are consciously navigating. Existing in both spaces leaves an imprint, a peculiar dislocation, as if memory and presence are no longer aligned. And that's because they aren't. For those who hold the architecture of both the breakdown and the breakthrough within them, the dual awareness can feel like a silent burden. But it's also a gift, a compass built from lifetimes of remembering. No need to wait for the world to catch up. The shift isn't coming. It has come. And those who feel caught between what is fading and what is rising aren't lost. They're the ones anchoring the bridge between both. Some people were never meant to be your enemy. At least, not at first. They once walked the same inner corridors you do. They knew the feeling of stillness that carries messages, the clarity that breaks through illusion. But somewhere along the line, their direction shifted. Maybe they clung too tightly to this version of life. Maybe the silence inside them grew too loud to bear. And instead of dissolving the pain, they turned toward it. They let it mold them. Not into survivors, but into instruments. It's not that they stopped remembering where they came from. It's that they used that memory as leverage to gain favor with forces that thrive in distortion. The ones harvesting truth without understanding it. That's how they became access points, carriers of something once pure, now redirected. And the closer they feel to your frequency, the easier it is for them to bypass your guard. Not because you're weak, but because you recognize them as something familiar. That's the doorway. You've likely crossed paths with people who spoke in language that matched your soul, but left you feeling hollow. You've likely stepped into spaces that looked like sanctuaries but stole your balance. That's not failure, it's architecture. There's a larger design at play, one that positions specific lives like pins on a map. You weren't placed in certain environments to thrive. You were located there to be monitored, mined, and kept within reach. The effort to contain you has never been loud. It's patient. It operates through delay, confusion, and artificial harmony. Jobs that pull you in just enough to keep you from escaping. Relationships that mimic purpose but never offer peace. Places that repel without reason or explanation. This is not chaos. This is tracking. Not the kind done with machines, but with memory, with spiritual residue, with frequency trails that mark where you've been and where you might go next. What's most ironic is how the system built to siphon you still relies on your integrity. Your alignment becomes a compass for those too hollow to find direction on their own. They stay close, not to learn, but to extract. They attach, not to evolve, but to mirror just enough wisdom to maintain their position. Every time one of these compromised souls is placed in your orbit, it's not random. It's engineering. They reflect back just enough truth to lower your defenses, just enough shadow to keep you doubting your own light. And yet, even through this distortion, your influence persists. Because real power doesn't manipulate, it liberates. It reorders. It rebuilds from the inside out. You weren't sent here to dominate. You were sent here to embody a kind of knowing that disarms illusion without needing to argue with it. And that's why they cling. Not to your personality, but to the system you represent, a framework built on alignment, not control. The distortion hasn't overtaken you. It's only revealed what you're here to undo. They may have tried to tether their paths to yours, but their motives disqualify them from the insights they so desperately seek. No backdoor can replace the inner work. No shortcut grants access to purity. And as the story unfolds, that becomes the very separation point. The split between those who borrowed light and those who remembered how to generate it. Some operate in positions of influence not because they carry vision, but because they've learned how to mimic its glow. They don't create light, they reroute it, borrowing from those who were born with internal access to truths they themselves can't reach. They know they can't erase the source, so instead, they wrap themselves around its vessels, those unaware of what pulses within them, hoping proximity alone will substitute for purity. But here's what's never spoken aloud. Without the energy they quietly extract from these anchored souls, their plans would collapse into dust. If not for the subtle harvesting of wisdom from those still half asleep to their own strength, those currently wearing crowns would be stumbling in total obscurity. Their ability to anticipate, to maintain order, to feign control, all of it hinges on remaining latched to those who were never meant to serve them, only outshine them. Most of the ones being used don't even realize they're carrying codes that shape timelines. They walk through life brushing their teeth, waiting in line, making small talk, while their energy is tracked, siphoned, and rerouted by those desperately seeking a higher vantage. These people aren't behind locked doors or hidden towers. They're sitting beside you. They might be repairing your car, delivering your groceries, watching over children, unaware that they're actually bearers of authority from a reality more aligned than the one they're stuck in. And that's what makes it so easy to exploit them, because they haven't remembered yet. Because no one's told them their frequency is rare, that it holds weight in realms most can't perceive. So the ones hungry for what they lack summon them into energetic networks without permission, mapping their movements, using subtle spiritual technologies to mine clarity from their unconscious state. This isn't done through brute force. It's done through ritualized camouflage, presenting false power while extracting real essence. But that access is starting to slip. Something is shifting. Those who've been silent are starting to sense the theft. And the moment enough of them seal off their field, when enough of them reawaken to what they've always been, there will be a silence across the old guard. A power outage of the unseen kind. Those who've relied on stolen resonance will find their channels blocked, their vision dimmed, their strategies undone. In the coming shift, whether tomorrow or in an undisclosed timeline, those hiding in plain sight will be called out of their corners. Not for show, but for function. Because the systems built on deception won't be able to continue unless they face the ones they've used. And those with true insight will no longer be approached through disguise or trickery. They'll be approached with open requests. The falseness will no longer hold. The ones who tried to bypass the climb will have no choice but to bow to the very people they once harvested. That's where this is headed, not in spectacle, but in reckoning. The ones who never knew they were central to the equation will become the only ones who can solve it. And when that day comes, borrowed power will no longer be enough. Only the truth, held quietly for so long, will stand. Some forces were never designed to hold spiritual responsibility. They were only ever sustained by masking weakness with illusion, siphoning clarity from the unaware. But their time is unraveling. In a glimpse I couldn't ignore, I saw their influence buckling under pressure, empty hands grasping for wisdom they can no longer counterfeit. They could no longer operate from the shadows. What had once been concealed beneath layers of ritual, secrecy, and energetic mimicry had been dragged into open view. Without access to the higher streams of knowledge, their tools lost all precision. Their networks rendered blind. And while the noise of fear still fills the collective, it's not echoing from the souls who carry light. That panic, that desperation, it belongs to those who once fed off of others without reciprocation. They are the ones facing spiritual drought. What they warned would be your undoing is what's now swallowing them. This inversion is the final reveal. They have become the victims of their own deception. Their soul structures, once hollowed by compromise, can no longer hold what they stole. The language around attack is often misplaced. The fear was never yours. The pressure wasn't a sign that you were under siege. It was the sound of their architecture cracking. The entire illusion is beginning to short-circuit as more awakened beings stop leaking their energy into systems designed to suppress them. Every refusal to play small sends a ripple. Every time a soul remembers their true frequency and seals it with integrity, another false structure disintegrates. And it's happening far faster than they anticipated. But the grief in all of this doesn't stem from watching systems fall. It comes from watching soul bonds fracture. Those who once moved in rhythm with you, who carried the same original sound, chose a different rhythm. Not by accident, but by influence. They weren't cast aside. They were convinced to weaponize what was sacred. Many of them didn't know what they were doing. Some did. Either way, the resonance was disturbed. The alignment shifted. And now, they will have to walk lifetimes to repair what was lost in a moment of betrayal. The deeper complexity is this: nothing occurs in isolation. When something is disrupted in this plane, it echoes outward into the others. The break they caused here didn't just affect your present. It distorted a shared future that had once been whole. And while the thread of connection still exists, the path back to it is no longer short. It's layered with delay, with correction, with weight. What was immediate has now become eventual. And that delay is the cost. What they're experiencing now is not punishment, but calibration. A necessary detachment from what they once exploited. And those who once orchestrated the inversion, those who copied blueprints they never earned, are watching their grip disappear. Their artificial constructs cannot stand in the presence of real alignment. Because true authority isn't seized, it's recognized. It's magnetic. And when enough of it gathers in one place, no imitation can survive. This shift is not about vengeance. It's about restoration. A rebalancing that honors truth over performance. What's rising now isn't rage, it's remembrance. And the ones who once walked as hidden royalty will no longer be hidden. Not because they demanded to be seen, but because the world can't ignore them anymore. The silence has ended. The reversal has begun. And the light is not just returning, it's reclaiming. Some beings carry within them a natural orientation to the deeper design of existence. They don't need to be handed secret information or inducted into hidden circles to sense the layout of what's unfolding. Their system simply knows. They can detect interference without being told there's a signal. This isn't about receiving something new, it's about remembering something ancient that was always accessible through alignment, not effort. With every moment they choose stillness over reaction, clarity over confusion, boundaries over blind giving. They recalibrate the world around them. That quiet refusal to hand over their essence to people who haven't cultivated their own is not a small act. It's a tectonic correction. When one person says no to being drained, the entire system tilts closer to equilibrium. And that shift, though invisible to most, is massive. The unusual sensations, the weightless knowing, the strange pull to remain watchful when everything appears calm, all of it holds meaning. That edge of your seat awareness isn't overthinking. It's memory surfacing. So many who've walked this path have felt the friction of being misunderstood, not because they were delusional, but because they were perceiving things from a vantage others weren't ready to acknowledge yet. The experiences that seemed too vivid to explain, those nights where the air felt electric, those dreams where language wasn't spoken but transferred through feeling, those moments where you knew someone was scanning your field without touching you, they weren't imagination. They were contact. They were confirmation that your life hasn't just been a string of events, but a living interaction with layers most will never even brush against. The sense of disconnection from the noise of this world doesn't mean something's wrong with you. It means something's right. That persistent inner pull, that ache for a world that makes sense at the soul level, isn't a fantasy. It's a message from a deeper existence calling itself forward through your presence. That pull didn't come from the outside. It rose from within. Because part of you has always been operating from elsewhere, even while grounded here. This body you wear is not the whole of your identity. It's a vessel equipped to hold information that can't be stored in data or doctrine. You arrived not to blend in, but to harmonize higher frequencies through your choices, your presence, your insight. You've always been wired to navigate through contradiction, to walk through distortion without forgetting what's real. Your discomfort in this realm has never been a sign of failure. It's a reflection of how much light you carry. You're not here randomly. You didn't just drift into this lifetime. You were activated, sent in response to imbalance, prepared across layers of time most people have never even sensed. Every aspect of your journey has been part of a larger pattern coming into focus. This isn't about grandeur. It's about accuracy. Your soul knew what it was doing when it placed you here. And now that awareness is catching up to the moment. Because something is shifting, and you were always meant to be at the center of it. Some people don't realize they've already crossed into a new world because the old one still echoes around them. But the shift has already occurred. What many call the future is quietly coexisting alongside the now. It's not waiting to arrive, it's waiting to be noticed. Every time a soul chooses presence over panic, clarity over confusion, and integrity over imitation, that world becomes more visible. The false scaffolding around this one begins to tremble not from resistance, but from neglect. It only stands as long as you keep feeding it your belief. Each quiet moment of self-trust chips away at centuries of distortion. Every refusal to compromise your inner compass shortens the life of the illusion. Those unseen movements, choosing to act with care when no one is watching, walking away from the noise without needing an audience, are recalibrating this planet's entire frequency. What you've been doing in silence isn't small. It's been disrupting a structure that was never built to last. This threshold you're standing on is not asking you to wait. It's asking you to remember. Not remember facts or dates, but to remember the architecture of your soul, the reason your very existence unsettles systems that rely on numbness. The authority you carry doesn't need permission. It needs embodiment. It needs a spine that no longer bends under guilt or fear. The time for hesitating has expired. What you withhold from yourself is what keeps the distortion alive. Stop feeding mirrors that don't reflect who you truly are. Stop lowering your tone so people won't be threatened by your clarity. The essence within you wasn't designed to be camouflaged. It was forged to recalibrate entire timelines just by being. You've inherited a memory of wholeness so strong that even in the middle of fragmentation, you still pulse with harmony. And the moment you stop editing yourself for the comfort of others, the fabric of this false world begins to tear. The role you've been carrying in fragments must now be owned in full. Not through performance, but through stillness. Not through domination, but through unshakable embodiment. The old ways of waiting for someone else to announce your value are ending. The world doesn't need more performers of light. It needs the real carriers of it to stop hiding beneath humility that was never yours to wear. This isn't ego. This is alignment. You were never meant to be background noise in someone else's story. You are the anchor point around which a new rhythm stabilizes. And those who once dismissed you will eventually retrace their steps, because the road forward leads through the frequency you've been protecting all along. They may not understand what you are, but they'll recognize what you undo. So let the silence stretch if it must. Let the old fall apart without mourning. Let your presence be the recalibration. Because it's not about taking back power, it's about stopping the leak. You were born holding what this reality pretended to give. Now it's time to carry it, openly, fully, without shrinking. Because your remembering is what ends the forgetting. And your presence is what ends the game.